Ever found yourself on the receiving end of silence from someone you really care about? It's a situation many of us have been in, and let's be honest, it's far from pleasant. Picture this. You're reaching out, trying to connect, and all you're met with is a wall of silence. It's like shouting into a void, isn't it? The world we live in today is more interconnected than ever before. Yet, ironically, it's also a world where we often feel ignored, especially by those we hold in high regard. This paradox of our times can lead to a whirlwind of emotions. You may feel confused, wondering why someone you care about isn't responding. Or maybe you're frustrated, feeling like your efforts to reach out are going unnoticed. It's even possible that you're feeling hurt, as the silence feels like a rejection of your affections or friendship. This kind of situation is like a bitter pill to swallow. The taste of ignorance is sharp and it lingers. It's a complex cocktail of emotions that can leave you feeling disoriented and questioning your self-worth. But here's an important thing to remember. It's not a reflection of your worth or your character. It's a reflection of the other person's situation or choices. Sometimes it's not about you at all. People have their own lives, their own struggles, and their own reasons for their actions. So, while it's natural to take it personally when someone you care about ignores you, remember that their silence is more about them than it is about you. Navigating these choppy emotional waters isn't easy. It's a tough situation, no doubt about it. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. Many of us have been there, and many of us have found ways to handle it. So take a deep breath. We're about to dive into the why, the how, and the what to do when you find yourself facing the bitter taste of ignorance. Before we jump into solutions, it's important to understand why she might be ignoring you. Now, this isn't about placing blame or making assumptions. It's about gaining insight into the possible reasons behind her behavior. So let's dive in. One of the most common reasons someone might be ignoring you is that they need space. Maybe things have gotten a little too intense for her liking, or perhaps she's trying to figure things out on her own. Remember, we all have our personal boundaries, and it's essential to respect those. Another reason could be that she's upset with you. This might be a hard pill to swallow, but it's crucial to consider. It could be something you said, something you did, or maybe something you didn't do. Reflect on your recent interactions. Are there any moments that could have sparked a misunderstanding or upset her? It's also possible that she has a lot going on in her own life. We all have those days, weeks, or even months when life throws us a curveball. She might be dealing with personal issues, work stress, or even health concerns. It's not always about you. Sometimes people retreat into themselves when they're dealing with a lot. Now, this doesn't mean you should start overanalyzing every interaction, every word, or every silence. It's about understanding that people's reactions and behaviors are often more about them than they are about you. And this understanding can give you the patience and the empathy to deal with the situation more effectively. So we've explored some possible reasons, but remember, these are just possibilities. Each situation is unique, and the only way to truly understand is to communicate, but we'll delve into that in the next section. Understanding the why can help you navigate your next steps more effectively. So before you rush into action, take a moment to reflect. Understanding is the first step towards resolution. And with this newfound understanding, you're well on your way to navigating this tricky situation. Now that we've understood the possible reasons, here are 5 things you can do when you feel ignored. First off, give her some space. Sometimes people withdraw to process their thoughts and emotions. It's not necessarily about you, it's about them needing room to breathe. So take a step back. This space may just be what she needs to sort things out. Next, communicate your feelings. It's easy to jump to conclusions when you're feeling ignored. But remember, assumptions can lead to misunderstandings. So instead of assuming, why not address the issue directly? Express your feelings calmly and honestly. Say something like, "I've noticed that you've been distant recently. It makes me feel ignored. Can we talk about it?" This approach opens a dialogue and shows respect for her feelings as well. Thirdly, focus on yourself. If you're feeling ignored, it's easy to get caught up in a spiral of negative thoughts. Instead, use this time to focus on your personal growth. Engage in activities you enjoy. Read that book you've been putting off. Start a new hobby. Spend time with friends. The point is to keep yourself occupied and mentally healthy. The fourth step is seeking advice. Talk to someone you trust about the situation. It could be a friend, a family member, or a counselor. Sometimes we're too close to a situation to see it clearly. A third party can provide a fresh perspective and practical advice. Lastly, be patient. Things don't change overnight. It's important to give her and the situation time. Remember, everyone processes things at their own pace. Your patience shows your willingness to wait and gives her the time she might need. Remember, these steps are not a magic fix, but they can guide you in handling this situation better. Along with the steps, there are certain do's and don'ts you should keep in mind. Let's start with the do's. Do stay positive. Life is an assortment of experiences, and not all are going to be pleasant. Remember that this too shall pass. Do keep your self-esteem intact. Your worth is not defined by how someone else treats you. Do keep open communication channels. If you get a chance, express your feelings without sounding desperate or clingy. And most importantly, do give them space. Sometimes people need a little room to breathe, to think, or to miss you. Now, let's move on to the don'ts. Don't blame yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-blame when someone starts ignoring you. But remember, everyone is responsible for their actions, and you can't control how others behave. Don't harass the person. Bombarding them with calls or messages or stalking them on social media will only push them further away. Don't take it personally. People have their reasons, and more often than not, it has more to do with them than it does with you. And lastly, don't let it consume you. It's okay to feel hurt, but don't let this situation dominate your thoughts and life. By adhering to these do's and don'ts, you're not only respecting the other person's feelings, but also preserving your peace of mind. You're demonstrating maturity and understanding, qualities that are attractive and admirable. And who knows? This approach might just be the catalyst for a change in their behavior towards you. Remember, it's essential that you don't lose sight of who you are or compromise your values in the face of adversity. You are much more than a person being ignored. You are an individual with unique qualities, strengths, and the capacity to thrive in any situation. These do's and don'ts will help you maintain your dignity and self-respect during this challenging time. So remember, when you feel ignored, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've covered today. We started off by discussing the bitter taste of ignorance. Ignorance can sting. It can feel as though you're invisible, your thoughts and feelings disregarded. But it's important to remember that everyone has their battles, their reasons, and you can't always know what's going on beneath the surface. Which brings us to the second point, understanding the why. People ignore for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're preoccupied, maybe they're processing something, or maybe they're just not that into you. And that's okay. It's crucial to remember that it's not always about you. Acknowledge the situation, but don't take it personally. Next, we moved on to the 5 practical steps on how to act when you're being ignored. Firstly, keep your cool. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. Secondly, communicate openly. If you're feeling ignored, express your feelings honestly. Thirdly, give them space. Sometimes people just need a breather. Fourthly, focus on you. Use this time to nurture yourself and grow. Lastly, seek advice. Talk to someone you trust about the situation. Their perspective might help you see things in a different light. Then we discussed the do's and don'ts. Do be patient, do be understanding, do be respectful. Don't lash out, don't play the victim. Don't let the situation consume you. It's all about maintaining your dignity while also respecting the other person's space and feelings. And here we are, wrapping up. We've covered a lot of ground today, but the most important takeaway, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel ignored, but it's also important to handle the situation with grace and understanding. Remember, you're not alone in this. There are resources out there. There are people who care. Never forget, it's okay to feel hurt, but it's also important to handle the situation with grace and understanding. You're stronger than you think.